Good morning. This is the lecture for Monday, the 10th of January, 2022, for Ancient and Medieval History. Hope you enjoyed last Friday off. I didn't know about it until I got here. I didn't. It didn't occur to me to check the listings. So I just drove in through the ridiculous conditions, including, standing water as deep as half my truck. And when I got here, nobody else was here. So, fun. I hope you enjoyed sleeping late and staying all cozy. Bless you. Which is what I would have preferred to do, obviously, but it's my own darn fault. So, the plebeians go on strike, and they get the 12 tables of law. They also get the Committee of the Centuries, honestly. That's a part of the deal, too. But the other big part of the deal that the plebeians get for going on strike is a new political office in Rome called the Tribune of the Plebs. The Tribune of the Plebs or the plebeians, is a lot like a trade union leader today. Because the tribune's job is to look out for the little guy, to make sure that laws are not unfair to everyday Roman citizens, that the special interests don't dominate the Senate, and so much that once again we have either in effect kings in Rome and in effect an aristocracy that has all the power while the plebeians have none. Now, the tribunes have two special powers. They're like superheroes in this regard. While a tribune cannot propose legislation, a tribune cannot suggest a law formally, a tribune does have the power of veto. Now, veto power rests in what the nature of the word veto means. Do any of you know from your Latin scholarship what the word veto means? The suffix "o" would indicate I. And it is the imperative sense. Yes. I forbid. That's veto. I forbid. That is what veto means. So, a tribune of the plebs is empowered to forbid a law, a government policy, even in the street. If a tribune sees something happening that violates his sense of what Roman law is or should be, either the letter of the law or the spirit of the law, a tribune can walk up and say, veto, I forbid. And so it will be. They will have to stop. Now, can the Senate go back and make another law? Yes. But a tribune can go back and give another veto. The tribunican veto is fairly hardcore, very hard to overcome. So, first and foremost, the tribune, while not allowed to produce new laws, is able to stop bad laws, quote unquote. But to do this, a tribune needs to be a courageous fellow, because the tribune is going to interfere with powerful interests, interfere with people who may be angry or in earnest, try to stop people who are desperately interested in going forward. And like any other mortal man, a tribune can be killed. So the second power that tribunes are given is they are inviolate. As inviolate officials, it means you can't touch them. You can't touch them in the course of their duties. If I'm a tribune and I'm about to go stop something that I think is wrong, and you, as a friend of mine, place your hand on my forearm just to get my attention. Legally, since I am a tribune going to do my duty, and you are placing a restraining hand on me, you would be liable for the death penalty. No one can even touch a tribune when they are doing their duty. They are inviolate. So, lictors who are guards can't stop tribunes in the course of their duties. Crowds cannot stop tribunes. Tribunes cannot be touched. So these are two pretty spiffy powers. They are pretty powerful things. You get to stop anything in its tracks, and nobody can touch you, restrain you, try to harm you or intimidate you using any kind of physical force. And the tribune is there to make sure that the spirit of the agreement between patricians... Now, patricians are not going to go away. Rome is not going to become some kind of Marxist utopia where there's no social class and everyone is equal. No. That isn't the case. There are still going to be rich, there's still going to be poor, there are still going to be bosses, there are still going to be workers. That doesn't change. But what changes is the way government and law treats those at the bottom. All Roman citizens are equal under the law. All Roman citizens should be treated fairly. That's enough for any reasonable person in those days. Heck, it's enough for most reasonable people today. You get fair treatment under the law. You're not going to be punished for coming from an obscure family. You're not going to get undue privilege for coming from an august family. That seems reasonably fair. At least it does to the plebeians. And this ushers in the real high phase of the Republic, which lasts several hundred years. Grab a marker. And go have a seat in your normal seat. What I'm going to do is I'll give you the correction sheet. Just put your name at the bottom so that I know you corrected your own. Okay. Each of these is worth 10 points. And once you've graded it, please put the correction sheet back on my desk and that in the, well, that you can hand to me. So, in this high point of the Republic, a certain kind of character, of virtuous personality, is encouraged. The Romans expect men to be this way. And there are 4 virtues that are considered to be civically productive, harmonious. These are good civic virtues. Now, civics, as you know, because you took civics in 8th grade, presumably, is the study of our polity. That is, our system of government, our rights, responsibilities, particularly in our case, the U.S. Constitution. Civic duties and responsibilities are things that you owe the society. For example, you owe taxes. You are expected to obey the laws that are righteously passed. You are expected to participate in government and elect officials wisely. Thank you. So, civic duties. Now, civil rights are things that you get as a result of being a citizen, such as the franchise, which is the right to vote. All of this comes from the Latin root word civitas, which means city. So, civic virtues are those noble qualities which citizens, people of the city, should aspire to. Civic virtues are what citizens really should bring in response and return for their freedom. They should bring a degree of nobility, a degree of honesty, of character. So what 4 civic virtues do the Romans encourage during their the height of their free society, the height of their Republican years? Well, the first virtue is Auctoritus. Auctoritus, this is in your notes, obviously. Auctoritus is authority. You carry yourself with authority. You carry yourself worthy of authority. One of the things I learned in business is that you dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. Within reason, obviously. If you're somebody who works as an auto mechanic and you want to be a business owner, you don't go to work in a three-piece suit. You don't wear a silk tie and linen sport jacket and trousers. None of that. But you dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Auctoritus means that since Romans are supposed to be wolfishly ambitious, every one of them should seek after power, command, authority, responsibility, the responsibility to make decisions for others. As such, those things that might be acceptable in a worker, in a lower class person, or in a child aren't necessarily acceptable for a boss. A boss, a leader, an officer, or a sergeant in the military is expected to hold themselves to a higher standard. For example, complaints. Soldiers and citizens all have a right to complain, to gripe, to grumble. It's part of life. Students too. If you guys in some ways aren't griping about the things that we teachers do, we're doing our job wrong. On some level, you should be, wow, you believe this stuff? This is nonsense. That's normal. And I expect that you are doing it at some point in time about me and about your other teachers. And if you're not, obviously, I've got to try harder to irritate you. So don't tell me. You carry yourself with authority. A leader is not allowed to complain downward. Complaints always go up. So if Mr. Nikolai makes a decision that I don't particularly like, I might or might not, ideally I should not, express to you my own disagreement with it. But I'm not going to harp on it. I'm not going to go on and on about it. I will harp on it or go on about it with Mr. Nikolai, because he's my boss. If I'm the department chair of the history department. And when I wasn't, and I had a problem, I would often go to the department chair of the history department, who was Mrs. Stembridge when I arrived, and I would talk to her about my complaints. Complaints go up, not down. A leader is expected to support the policy of his institution. So, a Roman is expected to carry himself with auctoritas, with authority, as being worthy of leadership and responsibility. Dignitas, dignity. A Roman is expected not to be frivolous, not to be obnoxious, not to be disrespectful. You treat yourself and everyone around you with dignity. You expect to be treated with dignity also in return. But you don't treat people like scum. Even when they work for you, you command them. But you don't strip them of their dignity unless they're slaves, in which case they're not people, they're living tools, according to the law, according to the morality, according to the society. The notion of slaves as human beings, forget about it. The Romans don't think that way, nor does anyone else in those days and ages in those times. So, auctoritas, you carry yourself with authority. Dignitas, you treat yourselves and others with dignity. Gravitas. Gravitas is seriousness or gravity. You don't walk around like a little child. La 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 la. Fun, 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 fun. Oh, I'm going to prank you. I'm going to prank you. I'm going to prank you. No. You're a man. Be like a man. Men deal in death and life. Be worthy of that. Treat life seriously. Life is not a game. You are not a child. You are not a woman. You are not allowed to be trivial or frivolous. This is old style thinking. You are not allowed to be. You are expected to be serious, grave even, to treat circumstances with the seriousness that they deserve. Trust me, I've had to hire people and fire people. You know what you don't do when you're firing somebody? You don't complain about how hard it is or how bad you feel about having to do it. You just do it. You do it clearly, you do it respectfully, but you make it clear you no longer have a job here. You don't joke with them about it. You don't expect them to commiserate with you for having to fire them. That's not what's going on. You are serious about the situation. You are taking away somebody's livelihood. They're going to have to scramble and find another job. So, because of that, you are going to be grave. You are going to be serious. You don't go up to somebody who's in mourning, who's just lost somebody that they love, and, hey, buddy, how you doing? Pound them on the arm, pound them in the gut, joke with them like it's normal. It's not normal. Life is serious. Treat it seriously. Gravitas. And finally, Pietas. Pietas is piety. Piety is the respect a son owes to his father, the respect a father owes to his father. Piety also is the root of all patriotism, because patriotism is love of fatherland. Patria is Latin for fatherland. So patriotism is love of fatherland. Pietas is the respect a son owes his father. Daddy is not the cuddly guy that indulges your every whim if you're a son in a traditional family. Father, pater, is the guy who disciplines you. If you're a boy, pater is the guy that's teaching you what it's like to be a man. Pater is not going to be the warm and fuzzy nurturer. That's mater's job. If she doesn't. She doesn't always in a Roman family. Life's tough. You've got to be tougher. Don't whine. Don't complain. Don't moan. Handle it. Control yourself. Control your emotions. Control your life. Don't expect that life owes you anything. It doesn't. All these tough lessons are the lessons the traditional father teaches his son. And the son is expected to bear up under them, because if the father is tough on the son will be stronger when he becomes an adult. If everyone indulges the child in the son will expect that the world will adapt itself to him. It's like people. I understand why some people have special needs, and those needs in a school setting need to be taken care of. But I can tell you, I've seen helicopter parents and enabled dependent children go through elementary school. Mommy always steps up and protects and complains and gets her way. And then in high school, mommy steps up and tries to get her way. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. I've seen this go on to college, where you have parents complaining to college professors, "You don't understand my little baby. He's special." Shut up! People your age stormed Normandy Beach wearing the uniform of their country. They're no longer children, they're adults. Stop it! But it's gotten to the point now where some parents try accompanying their adult children in their mid-20s to job interviews with companies, and where mommy tries to intervene with the new boss to let the boss know what the special needs are of little Johnny. Come on! This is nuts! Either you're an adult or you're not. Pietas. You owe loyalty to your fathers for teaching you about life, for bringing you into the world, for not killing you, because you're so annoying sometimes. You owe this to your fathers. So, Auctoritus, authority, Dignitas, dignity, Pietas, piety, Gravitas, seriousness. Pietas is the loyalty. So, any questions about the virtues? If all men, or most men, have to adhere to these virtues, at least with their public mask, with their public face, society will work pretty well. A free society can function. Now, the Roman family operates according to the system of Paterfamilias. The Paterfamilias is the oldest dominant man in the clan. So you could be a 30-year-old adult man, and if your father's in his 50s and is still active and with it and sharp, he's going to be the one in control of your life. You don't grow up and become the man until he dies or passes things over to you, because he's no longer capable. As such, the paterfamilias controls his family because the family is important in Roman society in a way that it's not to us in the United States today, for the most part. The family has honor, especially if the family is aristocratic. The family has honor. If you violate that honor, if you somehow cause the family to lose face, to be embarrassed, not just you, but everyone in your family is going to suffer repercussions and consequences. People might lose business, people might lose property, people might lose their freedom, people might die, depending upon how important your family is. So the paterfamilias is like a general on the battlefield. And everyone in the family, man, woman, and child, serves the paterfamilias. Now, to make sure of this, the paterfamilias has the legal power of life and death over everyone in his family. In the United States, if a father or a mother kills their child after it's born, then they are accountable for murder or manslaughter, at the very least. Parents are not allowed to physically abuse their kids beyond a reasonable point. Parents are not allowed, certainly, to kill their children. The state has an interest in preserving the lives of its future citizens. So whereas families do have a right to discipline their kids, and that includes corporal punishment, a reasonable amount of it at least, if you put your kid in a hole and starve him for 3 days as a punishment, that's kind of over the top, and children's services may come in and take the kids from you. You may end up going to jail for being an abusive parent. That's in the United States. Not in Rome! In Rome, if your paterfamilias determines that you're an embarrassment and a danger to the family, he can kill you. And it's not like he has to hide it. Yeah, I killed Tertius, my third child, because Tertius was a Nimrod. He was a doofus. He was incompetent, incapable, rude, selfish, and lazy. He would have embarrassed our family even more if I had let him live. I brought him into this world. I took him out. That's the power of the paterfamilias. No joke. So here's a true story. It's in the time of the Emperor Tiberius, the second emperor, who was sort of an absentee emperor after a while. He had his pleasure island of Capri, and he ruled from there. But there were members of the imperial family, and there were ambitious people who were low-born. The man that Tiberius leaves in charge of the day-to-day operation of the Roman government is a low-born guard captain named Lucius Aelius Sejanus. Sejanus is the captain of the Praetorian Guard. He's the Praetorian prefect. He is the leader of the emperor's personal bodyguard, the only troops anywhere near Rome. He commands them. And Tiberius thinks that Sejanus, who seems loyal and able, because he's lowborn, is the perfect man to trust, because nobody is going to put Sejanus anywhere near real power. Sejanus can be Tiberius's workhorse, while Tiberius has fun with men, women, and girls, boys, and animals, which he did. But Sejanus was ambitious. And Sejanus wanted to marry into the imperial family, because if he married into the imperial family, he might then become emperor after Tiberius. One of the emperor's nieces was named Livilla. Livilla had a husband named Castor. But Livilla found Sejanus attractive, and Sejanus charmed her and became her lover. In fact, Sejanus tricked her into drugging Castor's food and drink so that he would go into a deep drug-induced sleep, while Sejanus would make love to her in the same bed as her husband slept next to them. This is Roman-style decadence, okay? This is nasty stuff. And then Castor develops this weird, mysterious illness and dies. What do you think happened there? Husband of Livilla dies. It's poison. Who did it? Livilla. They didn't want me to tell you. Livilla poisons her own husband. Why? Because she wants to marry her lover. And she doesn't understand, or she doesn't care, that this is going to place her lover in competition with her uncle to be the emperor. It seems like Sejanus is going to get his wish. The emperor is resisting letting him marry his niece, but it seems like Sejanus might get his wish. In reality, feeble Claudius, who's Livilla's brother, gets evidence about Sejanus' treason, sneaks the evidence to Uncle Tiberius, the emperor, and Tiberius realizes just how dangerous his position is, because Sejanus is this close to marrying his niece and taking over the state, and Tiberius would have an accident and die. Tiberius orchestrates the fall of Sejanus by getting Sejanus' first officer to betray Sejanus in return for becoming Praetorian prefect himself. Always watch the people right at your back if you're in a society like this. So Sejanus' power is breaking. And Livilla and Claudius' mother finds out what Livilla did. Now, Claw is the Paterfamilias within that part of the family, but he's a Phoebe. So, in fact, Octavia, the mother of Livilla and Claudius, is going to act as Paterfamilias because her son is incapable, she says. When she finds out what her daughter does, she invites her daughter to dinner. Her daughter comes. Why not? Her daughter is unaware that Sejanus is falling. Livilla is feasted, and then Mom says, let's go up to your old rooms for old time's sake. Walk through. After all, you'll be married soon. And Livilla goes, and while she's up in her old rooms, her mother locks her in. She can't get out. There's no food. There's no water. There's nothing. Her mother sits outside the doors, locked, listening to her daughter beg for her life for days, until the daughter starves to death or dies of thirst. When Claudius comes up and sees this horrible scene of a mother killing her own daughter slowly, he just can't understand it. Why? His mother says she killed her husband in order to marry her lover. She's despicable. Her punishment is death. I raised a daughter like that. My fault. My punishment is this. That's Paterfamilias. The parent controls the child, even when the child is an adult. Even when the child is an adult that has children of his own. The parent has life and death power over the child. So the Roman family is absolutely military hierarchy. Now, we in the Anglo-Saxon world, we in America, we don't like it when nepotism happens. Do any of you know what nepotism is? Nepotism. How many of you have paying jobs or have had paying jobs? Raise your hands. Okay. Those of you who have had paying jobs, if those jobs are in somebody else's businesses, have you seen the difference between the way relatives of the owner are treated compared to everyone else? When I was in high school, I did. The sons and the relatives of the owner always were treated better. And in fact, I saw people who worked really, really hard, who wanted to become a manager or a shift leader. And instead, a relative who had little experience to no experience got the job because they were a relative. That's nepotism. Nepotism is when you hire people or promote people based on their relationship to you. Nepotism is one form of corruption. Another form of corruption is quid pro quo. I have an office. I'm on the zoning board. You're a builder. You want to build a series of houses in my town. Your house plan is going to maximize your profits, but it's going to cut corners in a way that our building code won't allow. So you send my family on an all-expense-paid cruise to the Caribbean or Hawaii for 2 weeks. And then it comes up, your proposal. And for whatever reason, I decide to make an exception to the building code for your development. Funny how that works. That's quid pro quo. That's corruption. That's bribery. You pay to play. You understand? We in the Anglo-Saxon world, in the English-speaking world, we in much of the West don't like that. We like the idea that everyone is to be treated roughly the same, that a relative who's incompetent won't be treated better than a non-relative who is a hard worker, that everyone should be accountable to the same codes and laws, regardless of who your friends are. And when bad things happen, we call it corruption. The Romans, on the other hand, call it patron-client relationships. Patron-client relationships. And what a patron-client relationship is the way that Japan works. It's the way that Italy works. It's the way that Spain and Greece work. It's the way that the Middle East works. It's the way that much of India works. It's the way that the Chinese Communist Party works. In fact, outside of Germany, England, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, most of the world operates by patron-client relationships of one form or another. Let me explain how it works. A patron is an older fellow. These days, it could be a man or a woman. Traditionally, it's an older man. The patron has money and power to spare. The patron has money and power to spare. What the patron needs are loyal followers. What the patron needs are loyal followers. So a patron is an older man, today it could be an older woman, who has money and power to spare and who needs loyal followers. A client is a younger fellow, a younger man. He needs money. He needs connections, influence, power. At least some kind of entree to power, connection to power. And what he has is youth, energy, and a willingness to be loyal. So the young man needs the wealth and power of the older man and has youth, energy, and a willingness to be loyal. These two come to an arrangement. The patron promises to guide the career of the client, to make sure that the client has all the money and resources that the client needs. Make sure that the client is introduced to the right people, makes the right connections, so that in 20 years the client can be a patron himself. In return, the client will do anything for the patron. He swears loyalty, fidelity, piety. The client owes the patron his career, his future, and therefore the client is going to do whatever the patron wants. This is the way the world works outside of the English-speaking world. That was very interesting. Now, there is the classic movie The Godfather, Lights and Shades, Please. The opening scene of which describes patron-client relationships in a just incredible way. I'm going to play that for you now.